Good day and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the best DPS tanks and healers in terms of raiding, and we're going to be taking a look at them and the various difficulties and essentially discussing why they are so popular. Now, what is super important to understand is that there's a big difference between the popularity, the throughput, and the survivability. So just to explain how this website works and everything about it, this website's related to World of Warcraft logs. So this is data pulled from logging that players do based on clearing, and this is based on passes. So you can see there's been 417,000 passes, and based on that they calculate how much DPS the class does. There is a big difference between popularity, DPS, and everything. For example, you might go, oh, well, surely Windwalker Monk should be up there because look at this DPS. But there's other factors that determine why Beast Mastery is so popular. It could be simplicity, it could be utility, it could be the way it manages itself around fights, it could be the fact that it's ranged. So there's a lot of other factors beyond just, oh, it does the most damage. Secondly, as well, you will see that there is differences between, for example, Heroic and Mythic. The reason for this is because bosses mechanics change, certain new things are introduced, and this causes problems for certain classes. Mythic generally is the one we're going to go off of, but you can see that there are slight variations. So for example, if you look at Heroic, you'll notice that, for example, the Fire Mage is not even there on Heroic, but now on Mythic it's S tier. So it's just the differences in them. We'll discuss everything. Obviously, guys, this is very, I guess, World of Warcraft meta-based discussion. You don't have to do this stuff. Play the classes you like. This website's great. It gives you ways to look at gear, talents, rotations, enchantments, gems, trinkets, and if you are interested in getting super good at raiding, this is a very good point of starting for you as any level of player. So let's talk about DPS. We're going to focus on Mythic, like I said, all bosses as well. Remember, bosses will change. So certain bosses will have DPS that will, generally speaking, perform at a much higher level. But that's okay. We're going to do all bosses, which is just general cover for the raid. We're going to focus on the S and A tiers and kind of see from there. So let's start with DPS. Now, popularity, like they say here, is useful metric because it signals from when groups bring players due to certain buffs, utility they provide, and not just raw throughput. There is also obviously community bias and things, so we will consider everything. Firstly, in throughput. Now, I want to discuss this for DPS especially. DPS is very well balanced this season, I think, in a lot of ways. So I think when I was discussing Delves and Mythic Plus, DPS is very well balanced. So I don't think you need to worry a ton about what class you're playing. If you are playing your class well, and if you are adequately geared, there'll be a space for you. In terms of survivability, also, I think a lot of DPS aren't struggling to live through fights. I know some are definitely having a little bit more issues than others, and the Unholy and Frosty K are way too tanky. They're almost like tanks themselves. But generally speaking, in terms of survivability, DPS are feeling all very okay. So let's talk about the top DPS. So Beastmaster Hunter, why is it a top DPS? Well, it's very simple. There's a lot that makes Beastmaster Hunter really strong, but one of the things that makes DPS or Beastmaster Hunter so powerful is the pet. The pet, the hands-off capabilities of it, the ability for you to remain incredibly mobile as a character, like incredibly mobile. Your traps are very good, very useful for CC and stunning. So there's a lot of really good stuff that Beastmaster just does. And it's the freedom of basically having a player that has almost a full range of mobility, which is incredibly good. Retribution Pally also is popular because of its utility. You have your blessings, you have slight heals, you have certain auras and shields and things that you can apply to the rest of the party to augment not only yourself but the other players. That's why you'll see Templar looking very, very good. On top of that as well, Divine Steed is very powerful, giving you a ton of mobility in fight. And also you have Divine Toll, lots of silences, and some good CC. So again, it all comes down to utility. Fire Mage is interesting. We discussed that kind of jump that it does. So Fire Mage, the large reason as to why Fire Mage is so powerful right now is that, again, similar to Beastmaster, it is a very mobile class. Very instant damage, very mobile. Lots of insta-casts, lots of high power spells. A very mobile class. The A tier ones are all similar. You'll notice a lot of them are classes that are focusing on mobility, because a lot of the boss fights in Liberation and Undermined require you to have quite a bit of mobility. And also a lot of them are instacast, lots of them are dots, lots of them are mobile, lots of them are not stagnant. And it goes down the list, the more stagnant, the more kind of stodgy those classes feel. So it's not a rule of thumb, but it definitely feels like mobility is quite sought after in this season. For tanks, so in terms of throughput, tanks pretty similar. I will say there's a big difference between Delves and Mythic Plus to raiding for tanks. So most people will know Vengeance Demon Hunter is kind of like the top pick for Mythic Plus. A lot of this is because of its ability to handle small groups at a time. Warrior and Blood DK take a huge step up in terms of DPS in large groups. They do a ton more DPS due to the scalability of their moves, but really DK is the big winner. So why is DK the big winner? Well, firstly, all the tanks are fairly tanky. I'm going to preface this by saying no tank is struggling to tank, but it's the add-ons that's really what's making a lot of these really good. Blood DK is so good because of the fact that they heal themselves, and it gives healers essentially the ability to focus on just other players. It's almost like you don't have to worry about your tank, and this is what makes Blood DK so popular right now. The fact that you just don't have to worry about other players. Like, you don't have to worry about, you know, essentially like healing this character, and this frees you up a lot because it means that you're not micromanaging a single player like you usually do with a tank, and it means that you're free to kind of push out on everything else. Vengeance Demon Hunter is still pretty good. Look, Prot Paddy is still pretty solid. I think Prot Warrior is a little bit undervalued here. I think that's just maybe people don't understand Prot Warrior. Prot Warrior feels very good. Tanks, I think, are all in a good space. The only tank that's feeling a little bit all over the place is Druid. But I think that's because Druid is pretty well balanced in terms of its DPS for balance. But it's also struggling with Feral. It feels like they can never get all 4 specs, in inverted commas, of Druid really working properly, which is a bit of a shame. Now let's talk about healers. So there's a big difference between healing in Mythic Plus and Delves and things like that compared to healing in raids, right? So your popularity for raids is, generally speaking, AoE healing. AoE healing, Restoration Totem, lots of really good stuff that you'll see these two do. Your Mistweaver Monk, lots of good, strong AoE heals. The whole Jadewind, Yulon, really giving you some really good instacast healing at a very high AoE level. AoE healing is always way more valuable in a raid comparative to any other content because of the disbursement of the units, the characters, the players, and just the field being a lot bigger a space. Same thing with Restoration Shaman. They're feeling really good right now, especially Totemic Shaman, and it's largely just because of the radius of the totems. You have Surge Totem, Chain Heal is very powerful, Life Totem, all these things are very, very good. The rest of the healers are probably around about okay, the same level. Disc Priest is really cool. It obviously does very high healing and very high damage, but it is very, very, very small in range, which is why you don't see it in the top tier. But it is cool, especially if you do need to piggyback kind of both of your tanks. Look, Druid is alright, nothing too bad there. Same with, Holy Priest, all just solid. Holy Pally, a little bit behind, gonna be honest with you. Not feeling super duper hot. I think for me, what I find with Paladin is it's very much like Druid, where they just seem to kind of get 2 out of 3 specs right, and I think that's just kind of where they are right now, because Red Pally is very strong, like very, very strong. Prop Pally is decent, and then, Holy Pally is kind of like, oh, okay, it's there. And then you have, obviously, Preservation Evoker, just kind of bringing up the rear end a little bit. Mainly because with Evoker, I think it's also just struggling to find a place for the spellcasting, healing, augmentation Evoker. Like, they're trying to do very unique things, but I think just if you were to compare this to any other healer, it's just not putting out at that level. All in all, I think I must be honest with you, everything's pretty well balanced this season. I'm super duper happy with how the distribution of units is looking, and it's nice to see different units thrive in raid comparative to Mythic Plus. But that's it from me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you next time. Bye. And also, let me know what you think. Have you played any of these classes? Are you doing the raiding? How's it going? It'd be great to know. Good day and welcome.